there's a little project here I've been hearing about, the Mariner Center expansion project, and that's a good project, and the province is proud to be supporting that project for $4 million. And I have to tell you, I don't even think the car was stopped. I definitely didn't have the door open, and Carrie was over there banging on the window saying, need a bit more money for the Mariner Center expansion project. So what I told her is it's $4 million so far, because I can see where it's going to go, but yeah.
I'm Gary Nickerson.
And I'm Quinn Taggart.
And this is Outside My Window.
That was Nova Scotia Premier Tim Houston addressing the audience at the recent Chamber of Commerce Business Awards. And we had an opportunity, of course, to see Premier Houston a few times over the course of the summer. He was down for, of course, the CMA event, but also, too, earlier in the summer, he was here at the airport for a meet and greet with a couple of new PC candidates that were being nominated into some local ridings. So Nick Hilton was nominated in as the PC candidate for Yarmouth, taking on incumbent Zach Churchill, who also happens to be the leader of the Liberal Party of Nova Scotia. And then also to Ryan Robichaud taking on in Clare incumbent Ronnie LeBlanc. And then, of course, we have Colton LeBlanc, who represents Argyll, taking on the Liberal candidate of Lorelei Murphy.
Folks, lots of great things happening here in southwest Nova Scotia, lots of great things happening across the province. We are a province on the move, a province that has so much potential and opportunity, and the Premier believes in that and has that strongest vision. And it's really great to be part of his team as we continue the great work that we started a few years ago, and we're working hard to, whenever the election may be, to continue that great work, and it's with the support of yourselves that we're going to get that done.
My name is Ryan Robichaud. I am the PC candidate for Clare. Very excited and honored for that. Thank you. Thank you. It's an exciting time in our province, that's for sure, and under the leadership of Tim Houston, I can't wait to have an even bigger majority after the next election, including the ridings of Yarmouth and Clare. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for being here. Truly excited about what today was for me in the community of Yarmouth. We visited several local businesses, places that were special to me, like Woods Berries in Rennerton and the Castle Lake in Melbourne. Spots that mean a lot to the residents here in Yarmouth. And we ended the day with visits to TriStar and the Yarmouth Hospital. The Yarmouth Hospital is somewhere I've called home for over 20 years. And I've been a nurse there for, over 20 years. And it's really that commitment that's made me want to run for the PC party. I've had people, colleagues, tell me that the last 4 years is the first time in that 20 years or more that they've seen significant improvement in healthcare. So I'm truly honored to be a part of this team, and that's what this is for me, is building relationships and building community. And I think that's how we are going to move forward. And ending our visit here today at the Yarmouth Airport, I think represents exactly that. This is an opportunity, this is an asset that we need the province to see. And thanks to this gathering and thanks to the several members of our community that have spoke with Tim over the last 24 hours, he now knows that.
If you think about the PC party and the values that we stand for around, personal accountability, responsibility, entrepreneurship, compassion, these are all core values of our party. And when this province has been governed by the PC party, good things have happened. We have a modern 100 series highway system in this province because of the PC party, right? We have the community college network in this province established by the PC party. We have a human rights commission in this province because of the PC party. It was modernized again later on. So when you think about the history, because of those that came before us, and there's a bunch of them here today, but they got things done when they were in government, and that's what we're striving to do too. And of course today, being in Yarmouth, the topic of conversation is the link and the importance of the link. And I would just remind each and every one of you that every year there's been a PC party, that ferry has run when the PC party's been in government, every single year. there's not a year when it's been a PC government that hasn't run, and no other party can say that. So when they start to talk, you just remind people of that. So the needle is moving. I just tell you that the needle is moving on all of these things, and then we have to look to the long term too. Like we can't, like as we say, we didn't break these things. Like we did not break them, but we are absolutely fixing them. Thank you for being here tonight and getting behind these wonderful candidates in Nick and Ryan for sure. I'm really, really excited about these two candidates. They're incredible candidates, and we can win these two seats. And of course, the work that Colton does and Nolan does, we're going to continue to focus on that. But this is the time.
One of the things that we wanted to try to do with the podcast over the years is to sit down with the politicians that represent the area. So we had an opportunity to sit one-on-one with the Premier ahead of the Chamber Awards. And the first thing I wanted to ask him, of course, was how did he go from being an accountant into politics?
Question I ask myself sometimes, but listen, I never had an interest in politics. I didn't grow up in a political household. My father was in the military, but we moved around a little bit, but we never didn't talk about politics at home. There was none of that stuff in our household. But I always say there's really only two ways people get into politics. One, they get asked. Somebody says, "Hey, you should put your name forward," or two, they get a little bit upset about something, and nobody asked me to get involved in politics. I started to pay attention really when our kids were in the school system, and I was really starting to just pay attention as to what was happening around the community, and started to question, like, how does this happen? Who makes those decisions? And when I started to peel back the onion and see how it all works, I thought, well, geez, there's an opportunity here, and I should put my name forward. I wasn't happy, so do something about it.
Did you jump right into provincial politics, or did you start off with municipal and work your way out?
Yeah, so I jumped right into provincial stuff. I decided to seek the PC nomination in Pictou East. This was 2012. The election was ultimately 2013. But I remember when I made the decision, I told my wife that I had a good idea. I was going to get out of business and get into politics. And so she had a certain reaction to that. But she asked a good question. She said, "What party?" Because we really didn't have any strong feelings or affiliation. So I went and listened to Stephen McNeil was the leader of the Liberals at the time. I went and listened to him when he was coming through Pictou County. He had a little event, and I went and listened, sat in the back and listened. And the leader of the PC came through, and I went and listened. I didn't go and listen to Darryl was the leader of the NDP. He was kind of the reason I was interested, so I didn't go and listen to him. But I just kind of thought that what the PC party was talking about at that time, a lot about jobs and the economy and opportunities, it was kind of something that kind of resonated with me. So I went after that nomination in 2012, and the election was 2013. I was elected in 2013, re-elected in 2017, became leader of the PC party in 2018, and then, of course, became premier in 2021.
When you look back at the elections, I mean, everybody always kind of pins the blame on the government of the day, but I look back at a lot of the huge issues that we're facing right now, like healthcare, education, mental health, affordability, and the like. And it's not a last 2-3 year thing. We can't blame it all on the PCs from there. You really got to go back years and years and years. And both you and the Liberals have had a stab at it, with minus the hiccup with Darryl Dexter. And I think we both feel the same way about that one. We felt the impact here in Southwest Nova a heck of a lot more than others did. Yeah. So how do you go about fixing that?
These are big issues, right? And I think when you talk about healthcare, it's certainly, I used the expression before, it's not like the can was kicked down the road. It was like kicked to the next county. Like nobody was really trying to tackle like get to the core of the issue, right? So when I was leader of the opposition, we spent a lot of time really trying to analyze and understand what the structural issues were, and then come out with ideas and put actual plans forward, which we did quite a bit of in opposition. We've been able to implement a bunch of them, which is great, but just really get to the structural issues. So it's not you can't tinker on some of these things. We have to deal with the here and now, And we're doing that in healthcare, but we also are trying to have a view, like an eye for the future, so we don't get back here. So, in healthcare, there's lots of parts to healthcare, but certainly the human resource issue, we need more doctors, right? Now, you can go back to the NDP, when they were in government, they had a report that said, hey, there's going to be an issue here with doctors, the demographics and, the changing population is going to be an issue, but they didn't do anything with it. And then, of course, all the time through the Liberals, they really didn't do anything with it. So when we came in, we said we have to address this. We can recruit and we can try and retain and we can try to support people so they can have more capacity, and we've done all of those things. But we're also taking like big structural changes. We're opening up a medical school at Cape Breton University. That will be 30 doctors a year that will graduate from there. Nova Scotians, slanted towards Nova Scotians, actually slanted towards rural Nova Scotia students, people who, when they graduate, want to be here, right? So that'd be 30 a year. So that's part of it, right? Imagine if that opened 7 years ago, right? Big difference, right? 30 new doctors a year. Now we've announced that International Medical Graduate Assessment Clinic. So what this means is like there's all kinds of, we hear it all the time, like maybe a kid from the neighborhood here who went to medical school in the Caribbean and is now working in the United States somewhere, right? Maybe at the Mayo Clinic, So we hear about all these Canadians, all these Nova Scotians even, that are doctors elsewhere that have a really hard time coming back. It's not a clean path for them. They would have had to go through, on the family doctor side, an assessment process that could take 18 months. But first they'd have to find a doctor that they could kind of work under the wing of. That doctor would have to be willing to do it and that willing to assess them. Well, not everyone wants to assess people, and not everyone feels they have the capacity to take them on. So that process really wasn't working. It's in the last 5 years, 39 licenses issued through the prior assessment process over 5 years, right? So we said that's not going to work. So we open up this assessment clinic. Will open January 1st, and it's like I'm going to call it a third medical school. So you'd have Dalhousie, Cape Breton Medical School, and this assessment clinic is kind of like a medical school for doctors from another country who can come here and be assessed by people who are focused on assessing people in 12 weeks. And once we start running cohorts of people through that, attracting people back home and run them through that, and imagine 12 weeks, we could have 45 new doctors a year from that process. Not 39 over 5 years, 45 a year. So when you say 30 from Cape Breton Medical, School, 45 from the assessment clinic, 75 new doctors a year. Now look out into the future and imagine what our province looks like when we have that many new doctors a year here, right? So we're trying to deal with the here and now, and we are, and I'm happy to talk about all kinds of things we're doing where the system is stabilizing and improving. There's still work to be done for sure. But if we look out onto the horizon, we don't want Nova Scotia to get back where it is right now. 75 new doctors a year, that is hopeful for the future. So how do we address the issues? We just dig right in and we understand them. And the assessment clinic, that actually came from the College of Physicians. Gus Grant I actually said to Gus, I said, Gus, we have a problem with this, with the way we're assessing international doctors. They're doctors. They're just not in Canada, right? They're doctors, right? How can we do it so we keep the standard that's fair for Nova Scotians? They know they're going to get good care, but is reasonable for the doctors, right? And so he said, well, let me think about that. And he came back and said, here's a way we can do it. And I said, let's do it, right? So we listen to the people who are actually on the front lines, and we really think these things through and analyze them, and then we do them, right? So they take investment. We're investing, but Nova Scotians are worth it.
One of the hardest challenges, I'm sure, in a situation like that, in any recruitment process, of course, is housing. Where are they going to live? We know that housing prices have skyrocketed. People are going with the short-term rentals on their properties, and I know there's some initiatives to help address that. And rentals are through the roof. I mean, we're on par with like Vancouver and Toronto now. I mean, the prices are outrageous. So is there anything that you can do or that we can do as a province to help that along? I mean, certainly recruiting folks that already are here solves some of that problem. I mean, people don't want to live with their parents forever, but I mean, there's a Granny Suite initiative and a few other things that are helpful to help move that along. But is there anything else really realistic that we can do?
Yeah, so we're always searching for ideas on this. I said, like, when I became premier and I sat down in the premier's desk and started to look around through the drawers and stuff, there was no magic wand in there that said, wave this and you can fix the housing crisis overnight, right? the closest thing I came to a magic wand was a farmer from Kings North named John Lohr as a housing minister. But we put a bunch of policies in place, right? So we looked at, number one, we looked at provincial crown land. Said, what's the best use case for that land? Could it be housing? You know, maybe it is, maybe it's not. But where it's, yeah, this would be good for housing. We made it available and took tenders and said, because having the land is a problem sometimes too, right? So taking the HST off the multi-unit residential, the Granny Suite initiative that you talked about, backyard suites, right? Like encouraging people to use the space that's there. These are all parts of the solution. Plus, we recognize there's labor shortage too. And skilled tradespeople sometimes try and find somebody sometimes to do something. So we came up with this program called the MOST program, the More Opportunities for Skilled Trades. Under that program, anyone who's 30 years old or younger and working a skilled trade doesn't pay any personal provincial income tax on their first 50 grand. So it's a tax incentive to encourage people to get into the trades, to stay in the trades, young tradespeople to move back to Nova Scotia and help us build this province, right? So, and it's also a message to people that it's okay to go into the trades. So if you think about all of these policies, they all take time, but I do believe that we're starting to see them take root. We're starting to see them catch on. The housing starts in the first quarter of the year last year. We're in the range of 800 housing starts for that quarter. This year, the first quarter, so the same time period, a different year later, was almost 2,200. A record number of housing starts, the biggest number since 1940, right? So it's government policy that we can implement that starts to move things along, right? So we will continue to do that. But we also look to, it takes everybody. It's certainly many hands, right? So it takes all levels of government, municipal, provincial, and federal. We all have to kind of work together. It takes, private contractors working with not-for-profits, and there's a couple great examples of that in Halifax. Clayton Developments was working with the Y to build affordable housing in one of their subdivisions, where there's a bunch of units that are affordable in there. I was just down in the Valley this afternoon, and I was talking to a little group of contractors there, and they said, we actually do that too. So there's all kinds of initiative and innovation that's rising up from people to help, and as a government, we'll put policy there and maybe some financial incentive too. But it's no question, it's a big issue. In the meantime, the solution to the housing crisis is more housing. Across the spectrum, that's why we're investing in student housing at the NSCC campuses. That's why we're investing in public housing, the first time in 20 years, investing in affordable housing. The solution is more housing for sure. And in the meantime, we'll continue to make those investments.
Is there a particular demographic that it makes sense to target when it comes to housing? The reason I bring that up, of course, is that at a municipal level, we were just talking with our new council attendees to maybe lower or drop the deed transfer tax, say, on a first-time home buyer. Are there other initiatives that you could possibly bring in that might make some sense that way?
Yeah, I think so. There's a lot of renters in the province too, right? That's why we extended the rent cap to try and give some protection to there, because it's a supply and demand. When there's not enough rent, not enough units, the rents go way up, right? That's not the renter's fault. That's a failure of government policy. So we don't want to punish the renters today for a failure of government policy of yesteryear, right? So that's what we have. That's the thinking behind the cap. It's kind of a tricky thing, right? This is the balancing act of government, because if you make the cap too strict or you put too many restrictions on it, then people just don't. They're not going to build more units, and they'll probably take units off the market, right? Maybe something that is a rental unit, then they sell it, and it's not a rental unit anymore. So we have to find the balance, and I think with the cap that we've maintained, we're finding that balance. We're still seeing lots of construction. There's still lots of things going up, but so that's part of it. But in terms of incentivizing people to get into the housing market, because it's obviously the biggest investment people will make, and it's we want everyone to buy a house and to have that dream of buying a house and have that opportunity in this province. So we are looking at some first-time homebuyer policy initiatives that could be supportive of people who are trying to get into that market. And in the meantime, for those renters, we'll do our best to protect them.
So shifting gears a little bit to communications, I know that cell phone coverage has been a hot button topic for a while, as well as internet coverage, given the ruralness of most of Nova Scotians. So you've had some progress as far as the cell phone side of things are going, but how are things going on that as well as the internet?
Yeah, so the internet issue is there's been significant progress on that. Satellite internet is, that technology is really advanced. We came up with a government program to, provide a grant to people. The upfront cost can be, or I think it was like, $1,200, $1,500.
It's
That's
expensive.
A lot. That's a lot, right? So we came up with a grant to help people get access to that. That's been successful. There's been good progress on the internet side of things. The cell, not so much. There's still lots of areas where it's a dead cell zone. People know where they're driving, and the call's going to drop right here in a minute. I'll call you back after the call drops. Like we all know that, and there's still like tens of thousands of homes in Nova Scotia where they can't get cell service in their home, right? So this is a big problem. So we tried to work with the carriers, the Rogers and the Bells of the world, and tried to. First thing I wanted to know was how close are we on satellite cell? Like we have satellite internet. I kind of figured satellite cell can't be that far behind, but apparently it is. The technology is still, 4 or 5 years away. That's not good enough. So then we tried to work with the carriers and say, well, can you build more towers? Can you build more towers so we can get more coverage? And that's been a difficult discussion. That's been a really difficult discussion. We do have Rogers upgrading a bunch of towers that they have. Will be, some better coverage. But so we decided as a province, well, if they're not going to build the towers, we're going to build the towers. And we actually passed and made money available. I think it's in the range of $40 million of money that's available to build towers by looking at the coverage map of the province and saying, where is it really bad, and trying to address them. We'll continue to do that. So the money's been made available. And now we're kind of, we got to get those towers up. So the supply chain of getting the towers and getting people, all of those types of things. But I want people to know that we understand the issue, and I understand the seriousness of it. It's a safety issue when you can't make a cell phone call many times, and there's, it's just you should have cell access. So we understand that, we know that, and we're focused on it.
A lot of people just don't have the landlines anymore. I mean, the landline used to be your lifeline in a power outage or a storm situation for as long as the batteries lasted on the pole or wherever the sub was. But now everybody's pretty much cell. So, I mean, sure, I can power up maybe a little generator to charge my phone, but that doesn't get me signal.
No, it's a big issue. It's a big issue. But so progress will be made. We're going in the right direction, I would say.
So let's take a supposition ahead a little bit that there will be an election at some point in the future. I'm not going to hammer on when or what or whichever. But since you've had the last few years doing things and you've had a majority to do it with, what sort of things are on the agenda for the PC party in the next couple of years that make sense, that are going to help drive ahead on some of these critical issues that people are worried about? Healthcare, inflation, housing affordability, and the likes.
So look, there's been progress on healthcare. So that's for sure. There's work to be done. Right, so continuing on the healthcare file is a focus for sure. We'll lose sight of that. We'll keep going on that. The affordability issues that people are feeling. I mean, we come up with some policy on that to try to support them where we can. Government can't do everything, but we should do what we can. So we announced a 1% cut on the HST. We've given notice to the CRA of that. You need to give them a certain notice period. We've done that, but that's a 1% cut. So those are tough decisions when they come to you and say that this 1% cut will cost the government $260 million. So we have to manage to find that, right? But $260 million is about $260 a person, right? So in many ways, $260 to a person, when you think about it at the family level, is a bigger number than $260 million to the government, right? In many ways, when you think about it, because it's money left in their pocket that they can use to pay for groceries, to pay for rent, to pay for the things that they need for their family. So we know that we have to do that, right? So we'll look for ways to support people on the affordability part of the thing. We'll continue on the progress on the housing file. But one of the things that really struck me is I was thinking that the healthcare issue, as you said, didn't develop just yesterday, right? And for years and years, people were saying there's a storm brewing here. Like this is not going to be good, and government really did nothing. So we're doing something, but now today I look at it. I say the equivalent is there's big infrastructure needs, building the hospital infrastructure, new hospitals, new roads, new overpasses, new, dealing with the traffic in certain of our regions, right? There's big investments that have to happen, and I don't want to have us say, like, 10 years from now, well, everybody knew, nobody did anything, right? So there's big needs there. There'll be big investments required, but these are investments in Nova Scotians that we're looking at, and I do firmly believe that if you make the right investments, they will pay off. So this is something I'm looking at on the election issue in general, and I appreciate you didn't try to pin me down on it, but the reality is I say the fixed election date is July, and that's something that I did. That's my word, right? My word's important to me. My word is not so important to myself that it would overshadow the needs of Nova Scotians. So I look at the landscape, and I always say it's July unless there's events. And there are obvious events happening right now. What's happening in Ottawa, it's a very volatile situation. What happens in Ottawa impacts us. And I can tell you a number of ways, but certainly the illegal fishing, I don't think Ottawa's paying close enough attention to Nova Scotia on that file. The isthmus issue, like this is a $800 million fix, and Ottawa's saying, well, we'll give you half. I can 100% guarantee you that if that isthmus were in Quebec, where the Prime Minister is looking for more votes, they would be paying 100% of it. They would not be trying to nickel and dime, right? So these are what happens in Ottawa impacts us. And part of what I'm kind of concerned about as I watch all this unfolding is we have members of Parliament here in Nova Scotia, Liberal members of Parliament. They're not standing up for Nova Scotians, right? And we have opposition members here. They're not standing up for Nova Scotians. If the isthmus was in Quebec, every single elected member in that province would be united, saying the federal government must pay. It's too important. But here we have, members of the opposition undermining the position of the province of Nova Scotia
By not doing anything.
By not doing anything and by saying, no, just take half. Just take half. Well, they're offering half, just take it. Well, they should be paying 100%, right? So I look at the events and I say, I won't put, if I can put Nova Scotia in a stronger position to bargain with the federal government, a stronger position to have fair discussions with them, then I think I owe it to Nova Scotians to do that. And that may require an election to do that, a new mandate, a strong mandate from the people that says stand up for Nova Scotia. So I'm just watching all of these events. They all matter, and we'll assess them and do what's best for Nova Scotians.
And you brought up the isthmus, and I had that down as a note. Do you think the change in leadership in New Brunswick is going to affect the position on that? Because, I mean, you're in it with them as far as the feds go.
Yeah, so the parties involved in that are, certainly the federal government, the province of Scotia, the province of New Brunswick, and the other parties affected, Newfoundland. Everything's got to go across that isthmus to get to the ferry to get to Newfoundland, right? Prince Edward Island, right? So it is a nationally significant trade corridor. This is not just a Nova Scotia thing by any stretch of the imagination. So it's a nationally significant trade corridor. It impacts New Brunswick. It impacts Nova Scotia. I don't expect that the new premier there would feel any less about the importance of the isthmus. I don't know what the political position might be on whether they would be willing to accept half or not. I don't think they should. I think it's a federal thing, and we should stick to that. But we'll have those discussions with them. But I can tell you, for me, as the Premier of Nova Scotia, it is crystal clear in my mind that this is a very, very significant, nationally significant trade corridor, and the federal government should be paying for it, and they shouldn't be trying to nickel and dime us on it.
Don't disagree with you there. Voter turnout percentages was one thing. I'm a numbers guy myself, so I like going back and having a look at things. And, certainly with the civic election, we saw 45, 50% maybe.
29 somewhere.
Some places were really bad. But yet on a provincial scale, I mean, we're hovering around the 55% as far as that part goes. But when I start to break it down a bit, based on demographic, what's your message to the younger folks, the 18 to 24s, the 25 to 34s, in trying to encourage them that their vote really does matter?
I think this will probably always be a tough thing. There's just going to be people that are just focused on their life and not not much else, right? And that's fair. Like, people elect people, they should be able to trust that that person will represent them and kind of make similar decisions that they would make given the same information. That's what it's all about, right? So, so if you're not focused on it, it's going to be hard to tell you to focus. You almost have to decide, right? So, but the reality of it is that the decisions that politicians make have an impact on all of us, right? So if you think about the discussion that we're having on the infrastructure, on the needs for new hospitals and new roads and new transportation methods, those are generational investments that every age group should want to have a say in, right? When you think about the investment we're making in the school lunch program to make sure that children at school aren't there hungry, right? They have an option to have a free lunch. That's a big investment of taxpayer money, but it's a generational investment that people may want to have their say on. So I think it's really up to the politicians to grab the interest of the citizens, to say it matters, and here's what I'm talking about that matters to you. And then somebody might say, you know what, I will go out and vote because that does matter to me. But I think the turnout will always be something that I think people to the end of time will be saying, I wish it was. Why isn't it 100%? Those that are engaged in the process just can't understand why somebody would not vote. And somebody who's never voted just can't understand why somebody would bother to vote, right? So, but it's up to us to kind of do a good job and get people's attention, talk about things that matter to them.
When you look at party politics, and we'll end on this one, when you look at party politics from a historical point of view, certainly there are really deep lines of division between the different parties over time. But I think that, if you look at the evolution of politics in general, especially in Canada, a lot of those lines are blurred now. Is it time maybe that party politics takes a walk?
Maybe. I mean, it's. I think in many ways, Nova Scotia politics is kind of center. There's not too much extremism. There's a little bit of extremism, on some of the different policies. But certainly, I think lots of people would say, well, Tim Houston's not a real conservative because he invests in so many social programs like school lunches and stuff. I don't know, right? If you think about it, so people would have a certain perception of what a party's all about, and oftentimes that's wrong, right? So it's when I talk to people and I talk about the PC party, and people may have a certain impression of what the PC party stands for, and I talk about the history of the party, well, it surprises a lot of people to know that was the PC party that established the Nova Scotia Human Rights Commission, right? That was under a PC party government at the time, right? Nova Scotia was only the ninth jurisdiction in the world to legalize same-sex marriage. PC party, right? That surprises a lot of people. It's not what they have these, thoughts of what a party is all about. But, and, even on the educational front, it was a PC party that started the community college network here and modernized it to become the NSCC network that we have now, right? So I just think that I would just encourage people to, the party system is there, but it might not actually, it might be different than you think. So it's worth kind of talking to candidates when they come, when an election's on, and if you have a chance to ask questions, you should do that and ask them how they feel about things. And if they feel like similar to what you do and will make a similar decision to what you would based on similar information, then you could feel comfortable and vote for them.
You're in Yarmouth tonight here at the Mariner Center for the Chamber of Commerce Business Awards. Small business took a really kick in the shorts during COVID, and some didn't survive, and some have managed to dig their way out of it. What's your message for small business?
Keep going. There's lots of highs and lows for sure, and our economy is driven by small business. Like it really is true. And so as a province, we've tried to do some stuff to support them. The Nova Scotia Loyal program, maybe we'd have another show on that maybe, but the idea behind that is just, invest in Nova Scotia companies and products and stuff and support each other. It's a big idea. It's a new idea. Big new ideas are hard and take time, but that's a program that is directed at like getting people to support local and give them an incentive to do that. As a government, we look at our procurement processes, and Minister LeBlanc is obviously the minister that oversees that stuff. And when we look at the government procurements that went out, I think it's about 92% are with local Nova Scotia companies. It's the highest it's ever been, right? So we're trying to walk the walk, I guess they say, and support local and come up with policies that just remind people, but also incentivize them to do it. So our small business owners, they keep our economy going, but they keep our communities going. They're the first people that people go to for sponsorship for anything, and they're always there. They really are examples of that Blue Noser spirit to support each other. So it's Small Business Week, and we thank all of our small business owners for what they do for our communities.
Mr. Premier, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Kevin, I believe we have a special guest with us tonight.
We do, and as you know, the Yarmouth and Area Chamber of Commerce Business Awards are the largest chamber awards event in the province. And that has certainly attracted the attention of not only the business community, but also the attention of our political leaders. Tonight, we're very honored to have the Honorable Tim Houston, Premier of the province of Nova Scotia, in attendance to help us celebrate our business success. Premier Houston.
You guys know how to have fun down here. I can see that. So thank you to Doane Grant Thornton for their sponsorship. My son started at Doane Grant Thornton about 2 weeks ago, and I talked to him on what was his first day, and I said, "How did it go?" And he said, well, Dad, what does it mean if they change the whole name of the company on the first day you start? So I'm not sure, actually. Thank you for your sponsorship, and of course the folks at RBC. And you got a pretty good job. You got a pretty good job for sure. I got a pretty good job too, though. I get to talk to a lot of Nova Scotians, and some of those Nova Scotians, they have a little feedback for me on how I could do my job a little differently sometimes too. So there is that. But thank you to all the sponsors, and certainly to the winners and the nominees. What a night for you. Congratulations to each of you to be recognized by your community. It's a big deal. So congratulations. It's a good time to be a Nova Scotian. Good things are happening in this province. I say we have our mojo in this province right now. We're kind of moving along pretty good. And even on some of the economic statistics, if you look at employment growth, export growth, retail growth, those are categories where Nova Scotia is outperforming the country. And it's a big deal. So I hope you feel that in your businesses and in your community. And as a government, we try to do what we can to invest in communities and support, those people that are making it happen. And there's a little project here I've been hearing about, the Mariner Center expansion project, and that's a good project. And the province is proud to be supporting that project for $4 million. And I have to tell you, I don't even think the car was stopped. I definitely didn't have the door open, and Carrie was over there banging on the window saying, need a bit more money for the Mariner Center expansion project. So what I told her is it's $4 million so far, because I can see where it's going to go, but yeah. And of course, I want to thank the Chamber and the team for all the work on healthcare that's happening. Thank you for that summary there. There's progress being made in healthcare. We know there's work to be done, but there is progress being made. And right here in this community, the investment in the emergency department expansion, that's a big deal. That's happening for sure. And the investment in the SPEC CT scanner, that's important for this community. So we're proud to be able to partner with the foundation on that. You got an incredible foundation here that makes things happen too. So I want to thank the foundation. The urgent treatment center, the pharmacy clinic, these are all things that are important. And having right here one of the 2 fixed wing ambulances, it's making a difference in the community. So I hope you feel that. We'll continue to make investments in the community. And I just want to say that a lot of those investments, we work with community leaders, we talk to community, we listen, but a lot of them are also because Colton LeBlanc is absolutely relentless at the cabinet table, and you have a good regional minister there, and now he's flanked with Nick Hilton and Ryan Robichaud and his team. I don't have a chance, I don't think, folks, but we'll continue to make those investments. And we know that in healthcare in general, we talked about 13 new doctors in this area, but across the province over the last 3 years, right now today, compared to 2021, there are 250 net new doctors in this province. And I will tell you, and think about where we're at, that tells you how big the need was, right? But I will tell you there are many, many more to come. I know that because I know that the medical school at Cape Breton University will graduate 30 new doctors a year. Nova Scotians, slanted towards Nova Scotians, slanted towards rural Nova Scotians who want to be here in this province and have a chance to go to medical school at Cape Breton University. 30 new a year makes a difference. The new International Medical Graduate Assessment Clinic that will be opening up in January, it will give doctors that are practicing in another country, that are often Canadian doctors that went to school in somewhere else and are practicing medicine, maybe in Australia or New Zealand or the Mayo Clinic, who knows? But it will give them a practical path to return to Nova Scotia and have their skills assessed in a reasonable period of time. We can shorten that assessment period down to 12 weeks. The current system before we do that is 18 months. So that assessment clinic is a big deal, and it could graduate 45 new doctors a year. So when you think about it, 30 from Cape Breton Medical School, 45 from the assessment clinic, 75 new doctors a year. Imagine what our province looks like. Imagine if we started that 8 years ago. But I can tell you, we're trying to deal with the here and now, but we're looking to the future to make sure we don't get in these messes again. But we appreciate all of our healthcare professionals in this province, and I would say to them, help is on the way. So thank you for what you do, and we will continue to support you. And we'll continue to make investments in where we can to support Nova Scotians. The school lunch program that we're rolling out, this is a big deal for families. We know there's lots of children that are hungry at school. That should not be happening. The school lunch program will support them. We don't want kids hungry at school, not on our watch. We can do better, so that's why we're rolling out the school lunch program. It's a significant investment, but it is worth it in Nova Scotians. We'll continue to do that. I don't know if you saw this week with the 1% cut to the HST. This is an important step. When you think about the HST cut and you think about the indexing of personal income tax brackets, which we passed in the budget in the spring, these are steps towards tax relief. We know we pay too much in taxes, but we're trying to do what we can. That HST cut alone is $260 million that the government will not collect, that will leave in your pockets. You know what to do with it. You can help use it to support your families, buy groceries, pay rents, all these things that matter to families. So we'll continue to move along that line. And in terms of supporting the economy, it's Small Business Week, so supporting the small businesses is an incredibly important part of our economy. And we're focused on supporting small businesses where we can, walk the walk through our government procurement process. It's about 92% of Nova Scotia government procurement lands in the hands of a Nova Scotia company. That's the highest it's ever been. We're pushing to support local businesses, and in an area like this, we know that one way we can support local businesses and all businesses and support residents is to extend that ferry for a couple of years and then look for a permanent solution to the long term. So we're committed to doing that. So folks, what I would say is enjoy the evening. You have an incredible community here. It's so nice to be here and have a chance to chat with you and see some of the inspiring stories, the innovative businesses that are happening here, but just the spirit of community. It embodies Nova Scotia. We're Nova Scotians first. We're all Blue Nosers together, and when we unite, we are a lot stronger. So thanks for having me here tonight. Enjoy the rest of the evening. Thanks, everyone.
I'm Gary Nickerson,
And I'm Quinn Taggart.
and this has been Outside My Window.